Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Aldrich. I'm here for the best school year ever masterclass. Last time we talked about how to have the greatest team and how to be working together. Some of the three top roadblocks that get in the way, as well as the number one secret for your success that will help you get where you want to go with the people that you're on this road with. And then today we're going to talk a little bit about your environment, your domain, your castle, and the three myths to having things set up successfully that get in the way. As I told you before, we're not doing like practical organization stuff. That stuff we have plenty of resources for. This is how to get your head game straight. And I guarantee you this is so much more important than everything else. Okay. So really take time to dive in and look for these things where they might be going on, and let's get them out of the way. All right, let's get started. So we're going to start with three myths to get out of the way for having the best school year ever. The first one is that getting help or accepting help equals failure. Okay, getting help or accepting help equals failure. This is a mentality that a lot of people have. If it's not you, hey, check it off and move to the next one, right? But I want you to keep in mind, not only for yourself, but also for when you're out there helping others, that a lot of people have this belief. It's interesting that we as moms, and especially in America, where we're like, do it on our own, pick ourselves up by our bootstraps, independent thinkers, as well as moms, we have this impression that we are supposed to do it all on our own. I will never forget the day that I was reading a biography about Abigail Adams, and she was doing tons, right? She had her kids and she was homeschooling them in a lot of ways. She was trying to help her husband, John Adams, with his politics, with his business. He was an attorney and she was trying to keep things straight there. She's trying to feed people. She had slaves and servants that worked for her that she was trying to oversee their jobs and stuff. And then she got really involved in the community. And I noticed that about 3/4 of the way through the biography of Abigail Adams, that she actually spent most of her time delegating the jobs out to other people that she needed doing. If it was something that did not absolutely require her to do it, she looked for creative ways to delegate it. Sometimes she delegated it to other people in the community. Other times she might have delegated it to her children. She managed quite a lot of other people, whether it was community work or it was her own servants in her own household. But y'all, she was not trying to do it all herself. And I think sometimes as parents, we can look back and we see all these wonderful people that did tons of things. And I just want to encourage you that if you have a role model out there that you're like, I don't know how they do it all, the chances are they don't. They don't do it all. Chances are they have a team helping them. They have delegated certain things out. For instance, I'll give you some examples. We have a couple of ladies that needed extra work in our church and like to earn money. And so they actually clean our home one day a month. It's a way for me, like the kids still have to clean the bathroom, but one day out of the month, everything gets cleaned and I love it. It also means like things don't build up and end up like not getting addressed for a long period of time, even if my kids consistently forget something, right? So that's one way I get help. I told you in the last video, I hired a tutor to help with one of my students' schoolwork, right? For my business, when something went down on my website, rather than trying to dig in and figure it out on my own, I was like, this is going to hurt financially, but I'm going to pay somebody to figure this out for me. I could figure it out but somebody else can do it way faster than I can. And so it's worth the money to get them to figure it out. It's worth the time. To me, it's worth the time spent with my children to have somebody else doing that, right? Um, things like you can delegate things out to people, but you can also delegate things out to things. What do I mean by that? Well, I look for ways to not make as many decisions or not have to remember as many things. For instance, Brandon just recently got a new car, and this is a great way to illustrate this. And he was talking to me about how he has so much less decision fatigue when he gets home from the office. And the reason is he's got a car now that he just recently got a new to him car that adjusts the windshield wipers based on whether or not it's raining. It adjusts the seat based on who's sitting in it. It adjusts the headlights based on the conditions of the weather outside. It adjusts all the mirrors. And so there's all these things that the car does without him having to think about it. And so he doesn't have to think about, do I turn the wipers on high or medium? It adjusts the air temperature, right? He's got that automatic air temperature. He's like, actually, I get home and my ride home is actually very peaceful because I've noticed that I don't get distracted having to make all these extra decisions. I can stay focused on just driving well and whatever I happen to be thinking about as I'm going along. And so it's interesting how that is a great example of how decision fatigue can get in the way. Some of the ways that I've done that with my own life, how do I delegate out to things? Sometimes I will print off a lot more pages than necessary for a certain subject that we're working on because I don't want to have to keep in my brain when I'm going to need more. So if I am, say, more than 50% sure that I will use the materials that year, I'll just print everything off for the year right at the beginning. And then I've only had to think about printing that stuff off one time, and I don't have to think about it anymore. Another one that I do is when I'm trying to determine what books I need to sell, right? I don't do this business of like, okay, I'm not using this book, so I need to try to sell it. I'm not using this book, so I need to try to sell it. I gradually put that just everything I'm going to get rid of goes in one bucket, and then it just stays there until the bucket's full. When the bucket's full, then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to try to sell all of these things. And what I do is I go through a period of time where I try to sell them all. And then after that period of time, anything that's left, it goes out to Goodwill or whatever. The goal is, can I only have to think about something one time? It's why I hate laundry because you have to think about it more than one time. You have to remember it when it goes to wash it. Then you have to remember that it's done washing and put it in the dryer. Then you have to remember when it's done in the dryer, go fold it. It's not my favorite chore because it requires me remembering things multiple times, the same thing multiple times. And that just sets me up for failure. So to counter that, one of the other things that I do so that I don't have to remember is set plenty of reminders or alarms or things like that. And so I will set things on a schedule, like things like I was supposed to take some dissection tools to deliver to another person. Now I have a couple of options of how I could remember that. I could, as soon as I heard it, I could go get the stuff, right? But I was kind of busy and I didn't really want to distract myself from what I was currently doing to go do that. And yet I don't want to have to remember it again. And so what I did was I told my phone to set a reminder. When would I set the reminder for? The day I need to take the stuff. So that day I was like, set a reminder for Thursday, the whatever day at 8:00 in the morning that I need to take these things to this person. And then I don't have to remember it again. The more things that you can delegate out, whether it's to a person or to a thing, the more it frees up your space in your head to do the things that actually do need doing. All right. So that's that first myth, is that getting help is not a failure. There's nothing wrong with it. Just because you can clean your house doesn't mean that you have to be cleaning your house. Just because you can vacuum your car doesn't mean you need to be the person doing it. What are the things that other people cannot do? That there's not somebody else that can do that job besides you. You need to focus on those things and let other people focus on the things that you don't need to do. Okay. The second myth that comes up all the time, whether it's around coaching or in school stuff, or, oh my goodness, this one's a fun one, right? I hear this one all the time. So we're just going to bust the myth. The myth is help from God will be in the budget. You guys, I don't know where we got the idea that the answer that God has for us is going to be in our budget. And that's how we're going to know that it's the thing to do. But I would challenge you that if that's your current belief, that you go back and you look at the number of times that people in the Bible actually had the resources available ahead of time to do what God called them to do. It's not there. Like, it wasn't there. They didn't have it. They had to step forward, and then he provided. So the other thing is there's a little bit of an illogical process here that's happening. When we set up a budget, like financial budget, usually we have in our minds what things we are going to pay for. And I don't know about you, but we do our best to distribute everything across the whole budget. Like, all the pennies are accounted for. They're all accounted for. So anything that comes in that wasn't in our brains when we set the budget, guess what? It's not going to be in the budget, because we didn't know it needed to be in the budget when we set the budget. So a lot of times what happens though is we'll get this idea, like I've talked about this a couple of times. I hired a tutor to help with my son. It wasn't a cheap thing. It was kind of a big investment. And always before, I have let we just don't have this in our school budget, leave it on the table. But what happens, but of course it wasn't part of the plan. We didn't know it needed to be a part of the plan. We didn't prepare for it to be a part of the plan financially. And so here we are, like, oh, this needs to come in. Is it in the budget? Of course it's not in the budget. We didn't know it needed to be. So now what are we going to do about it? And in the end, we decided this is really necessary. Like, it's more necessary than some other things. And so what happens is we say, we're going to figure out how to put it in the budget, because it's so important that we're going to add this and change some other things around, right? And that's what we did. That's how you have to come to stuff, is like, and then sometimes we have to say yes to things that we don't know how the Lord is going to provide. Sometimes they're just necessary, but he is faithful and you can count on him. And chances are, big decisions that he wants you to make, they aren't going to be in the budget. It's because otherwise it wouldn't take faith. It would not take faith to step into that thing if you already had all the means available to do the thing. That's just stepping forward into something that feels comfortable. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't require faith. It doesn't require a lot of trust. It's just like, oh yeah, we can make it happen. Yeah. So the second myth is that help from God is in the budget. Busted, not true. And I encourage you to look for the places, where is he prompting you to go that you just don't know how to get there? Go ahead and say yes to him. That's the first step, and he will show you the path. Okay. All right. Myth number 3. Okay, myth number 3 is um, once things calm down, then I can do what I need to do. Once we get past this situation, then things will settle down and I'll be able to whatever. In my life, what that looks like is this idea that I'm going to get past this quote busy season, and then I'll pay attention to my diet, my nutrition, my exercise, my workout. Um, I'll get past this busy season and then I'll take more time to read my Bible. I'll get past this busy season and then I'll focus more on helping my daughter learn how to read. Or I'll get past this ball season, gymnastics season, soccer season, football season, starting school, finishing school. Like, you guys, we have this illusion that things are going to calm down and there won't be as much on the calendar, and then we'll like get busy. It's such a lie. I don't know. It's just such a lie. It doesn't work that way. There are times that are acute, like there have been times in my life where, for instance, one of my children was having frequent surgeries, right? And I realized, okay, this is kind of an extra busy time. So we're not going to prioritize some of the school stuff, or we're not going to go anywhere extra for a while or something like that. But there's a lot of times in our life where our daily stuff is so busy and we look a month down and there's not too much on our calendar. And so we're like, okay, so when we get there, then things will be calm and I can do that. Right. But the truth is we just haven't put everything on our calendar that's going to be on there. And so if it's like specific events, then putting those, like setting those out there to do in the future, that's fine, because then those become the things that fill up the calendar, right? Like, when we calm down, I'll go out to lunch with this person. And so I might put that on the calendar for a month out, knowing that I have more availability then because it hasn't filled up. And that'll happen. But if it's daily life stuff, it's a myth that you're going to calm down enough to add those things in. Honey, if you know you need to take good care of yourself, or you know you need to get good exercise, or you know you need to eat better, or you need to prep meals differently, or you know that you need to spend time with the Lord and you're not doing it, those daily habit type things, there's not going to be a time when your life calms down in order to sort of put those daily habits in. So specific events, maybe. Daily routine stuff, not a chance. This is the time. Today is the day. If you know it needs to be incorporated, we start figuring out, like, let's just get in the habit of trying it out, figuring it out right now. There's not going to be a better day besides today to start those habits and to say yes to trying again if you've tried them before and started them before. Okay. So those are the 3 myths. Getting help equals failure. Busted. Getting help from God is going to be in your budget. No chance. That is not how this works. And then number 3, I'll get past this and then I'll start whatever it is. Forget it. That is not how that works. All right. We want to get help long before we need it. And that's no failure. That's actually wisdom. In fact, you can read all about how wise it was for Moses to delegate responsibility in the book of Exodus. I think it's around Exodus like 16 or 17, where he delegates out responsibilities to other people. Help from God, he will provide for your needs. And it's probably not going to be in your budget because you didn't know about it. And then today is the day to take action that God's calling you to take, especially if it's something that you need to work into your daily routine. now's the time. Even if you feel like you don't have the capacity to, like, say it's exercise, maybe you don't feel like you have the capacity to go for a 30-minute walk or do like some workout every single day. What if you just got up and stepped it off? Like, we're going to develop the routine of getting up and making space for this. Just like, have you ever seen somebody like step out a dance routine? They aren't trying to do the whole dance routine, but they kind of like mark the steps of where they're going to do the dance routine. Well, that's kind of what you have the opportunity to do. Okay, maybe you aren't ready to prepare completely different meals so that your family can eat more healthy. What about just going through the process of asking yourself, if I were going to eat something healthy today, what would it be? Go ahead and start asking the questions of what you would prioritize food-wise, even if you're eating the thing that isn't serving you very well. All right, that's a way you can step it off. All right, and then the final thing for this session is to watch out for one sneaky sabotage. Okay, and that is what I'm going to call compensation commitments. Compensation commitments. And what this is that a lot of times we get into this place where we feel guilty for something, whether it's asking for help, or we feel like we're spending too much money, or we feel like we're not doing what we need to for our children, we're not showing up in some way, we feel guilty as a parent. And all of a sudden, we'll add something to our schedule, add something to our commitments, or add something to our budget to mitigate the guilty feeling, right? So if I feel like I'm not spending enough time with my child on a regular basis, a compensation commitment might be, you know what? I'm going to sign you up for baseball because I don't spend as much time with you as I need to, and I really should. And other people's parents, they sign their kids up for baseball. And so I'm going to sign you up for baseball. Now we're committed to something for like 3 months that we did not feel called to be committed to. We just felt guilty for the fact that maybe you've been gone over the weekend and your son misses you. And all of a sudden now you've got this long commitment that you didn't need to make. Or we'll do things like feel overwhelmed at the house, feel guilty for not working on it. And this has actually come up with clients before. The house is a wreck. I feel guilty that the house is a wreck. I feel inadequate as a parent because I can't seem to keep my house clean. I don't want to have people over to my house. And so the thing that I will do is I will leave the house and volunteer to go work at other things, doing other stuff for other people, because that helps me feel better about like I'm spending time with people, I'm helping them, and now I have a really valid excuse for my house being the way it is. But it's never really going to bring satisfaction. It's only going to bring more overwhelm because God didn't call you to do it. It's your own guilt that called you to do it, and that's very different. And now you really don't have the time to clean up the house like you know you need to or that you want to, because you're away from the house. I'll never forget, I had one client one time like, the first step to having an organized house is you have to be there. They're like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. I'm like, okay, well, there is a necessity to be there physically in order to make any sort of unless you want somebody else making the decision about where all of your stuff goes. Well, no. Like, okay, then you have to be present. So, but this is something that sometimes we don't realize we're doing it. Sometimes we don't realize we're compensating. I knew I had a big decision to make, and I was nervous about it one time. And in order to avoid making the big decision, I redid my entire entryway. I repainted, I caulked, I changed the light fixtures, I redid the entire floor, I reorganized. Yeah, all of it. I redid all of it just so I wouldn't have to step into the new thing that that I thought I was supposed to be doing. And then I had a really valid reason for not taking the action that I knew I needed to take. So it was a compensation commitment. Am I grateful that I redid that entryway? Absolutely. It was beautiful. But I know that the way that that got done was not in integrity. It was totally just trying to get out of these guilty or uncomfortable feelings over here. So watch out for that sabotage in your school life, in your extracurricular life. Watch out for that tendency to sabotage, overcommit because you feel guilty. We want to make sure that things that we're committing to are really what God's calling us to, and not just because we feel guilty or because we don't measure up to somebody else or because we aren't doing as much as our children as other people are doing, or just all kinds of things like that that are so unnecessary. All right. So that's the way to have the best school year ever with your environment in mind. Okay. And I'll see you on the next session, the last one, all about mindset. We're going to talk about priorities. We're going to talk about why you might hate your checklists. And we're going to talk about one supermom strategy. Probably it's going to be the shortest session. So make sure you tune in, and I'll see you then. Okay. Love you guys.